Morning everyone, I hope we're doing well and not too fed up with the weather last week. It wasn't as good as the previous week. So let's look at our learning for today. So we're going to start off with reading, as we normally do. And we've got a new book this week, and we're going to be starting with Matilda. And again, we're just going to be concentrating now really on mixed vipers, just doing a little bit of revision on those skills throughout this text. So let's look at the first question then for today, and again try and work out as the question comes up which of the vipers you think it is. So the first question that we've got is, how would a nimble mind work? So this one again is to do with words, so therefore it's going to be a vocabulary one. And again, techniques for this one: find some evidence in the text. So we've found that word nimble, and I've gone just to the right of that and found that it also mentions that she was quick to learn. So it gives us a little bit of an idea about what a nimble mind might be like. So first of all, we can sort of define what nimble means. So if you're nimble, you are fast and can easily change direction. So if that was the case in terms of a mind, then my answer for that would be, if a mind was described as this, it would be very quick to learn new things and would be able to respond quickly to new situations. So again, I'm just reading around the word that I found and trying to gain as much information. Even if I don't know what that word means, I can begin to make an educated guess for that. Okay, let's look at another one. And this time it says, why does Mrs. Phelps keep asking Matilda about pictures? Now this could be a retrieval one, but it doesn't explain why she asks Matilda about the pictures in the text. So actually this one is going to be an inference one, because we don't know, but we need to, it's not said in the text, sorry, so we need to work out why she's referring to pictures when she's speaking to Matilda in the library. So again, I'm just going to find in the text where it says pictures, and for this one it doesn't really help reading the sort of sentences where them two words are contained. You need to read really this whole section, and when we do read this section, what we're discovering is the fact that Matilda's going into the library, she's discussing books, and she's discussing maybe the next book that she might get. So what's happening with the librarian, Mrs. Phelps, is she is sort of wondering why Matilda's talking about the books when she's so young, and doesn't really think she's been able to read the books. So I've just cut this same question, I've just cut the text down slightly so that I can fit my answer in. So my answer for this one would be something along the lines of, Mrs. Phelps keeps asking Matilda about the pictures because she is convinced that a child of Matilda's age would not be able to read, and most would look at the pictures. So she's just thinking that normally when a child of that age comes into the library, they just look at the pictures. So she's assuming that Matilda is the same because she doesn't know her quite well yet. And we can sort of clarify that by saying, I know this because when Matilda is wondering what to read next, Mrs. Phelps says, you mean you looked at the pictures? So she's trying to clarify with Matilda that, well, you must be looking at the pictures if you're able to read those books. Okay, so that would be my answer for that one. Again, so we're just looking at all the information, and we know that Matilda is clever, and we know that she's very young, and therefore most children would not be able to read at her age. So again, we're inferring, and we have to imply what's read. So have a go with those questions on that text today. It's just chapter 1, quite short chapters, and again, think about which skills you're going to need for the particular vipers that you're going to be answering. Okay, and on to maths then for today. and we're sticking with geometry, so all to do with shape. Moving away slightly from angles now, but on to some shape work. So today we're going to be looking at understanding parallel and perpendicular lines, and there are the two examples on the screen. So before I move on to the next one, try and work out if you think you know which one represents parallel and which one you think represents perpendicular. Okay, and so before we start looking at those two ideas, parallel and perpendicular, let's just recap horizontal and vertical lines. So if you pause the video now and see if you would be able to identify which ones are horizontal and which ones are vertical. Okay, so if we start with our horizontal lines, they're the ones that run across. So we've got one at the top there, and we've got one down here at the bottom, and then our vertical lines run from top to bottom or bottom to top, so upwards in upwards direction. So we've got these four over here. Now that black line you can see there in the middle, that's neither horizontal nor vertical, because it is sort of going off at a slanted angle. So that it's really important when we're talking about perpendicular lines that you understand horizontal and vertical lines. That's one of the key features of those. So let's look at parallel and perpendicular then. So we've got two good images below that are a really good way of understanding these two pieces of vocabulary. See if you can work out which one would be a representation of parallel and which one would represent perpendicular. Okay, so if we look at the image on the left, that's the train track down here. That is a really good example of parallel lines. Now, they are the actual tracks themselves, the metal tracks in particular, they are parallel because if I bring my two arrows up, the distance between those tracks is equal all the way along. Okay, so obviously they need to be like that, otherwise the train would just fall off the track. So whatever railway line you went to in Britain, as long as the same trains run on it, you would find that the tracks are the same distance apart. So if you measured it a mile down the track and then moved 2 miles up the track, it'd still be the same distance apart. So when those two lines never get further apart, they always stay the same distance, they're called parallel lines. Now the other image on the right looks to be taken maybe a runway, but you can see there's some crossroads in a way there, and they create a 90-degree angle. So where this larger road comes down with the yellow line in it, and then the smaller one meeting it, it makes that 90-degree angle. So when two lines cross each other and create a 90-degree angle, we can say that those are perpendicular lines. Okay, so they intersect or cross at 90 degrees, we'd call them perpendicular. Okay, so that's two bits of information that you're going to need for today's lesson. Okay, so if you pause the video and have a go at this one from what we've just discussed. Sophie joins dots A to B and C to D. Will her lines be parallel, perpendicular, or neither? So for this one, obviously you need to imagine those lines are joined, and if we put them now together, slightly tricky this one, but if we were to measure that distance there and then another point measure that distance there, they would actually be the same distance apart. So as we looked at with the railway track, because they're the same distance apart, they never meet and they will never cross, even if they went on forever. We can say that they must be parallel. Now, the parallel lines don't need to actually be across from each other. They can be offset, but so long as they are going in the same direction and keeping the same distance apart, then they're still parallel. So don't get confused by that. The train track, obviously, they need to be together, but parallel lines don't necessarily need to be opposite each other. They can just be the same distance apart further down. Okay, so definitely not perpendicular because they don't cross at a 90-degree angle, and not neither. Okay, so again, pause the video and have a go at this one. So we need to complete the sentences here below. It says line 1 is parallel to which other line? So let's have a look at line 1. That's that blue line there. And we're looking for a line that keeps the same distance apart all the way along. And it's definitely not 2. It's definitely not 3. They go at different. If you look at 3, they would cross each other if you carry the lines on. 2 and 1 would obviously, and 2 and 5. So it must be 4 that is parallel because they're the same distance apart. And then line 4, so it's either is parallel or perpendicular. Well, line 4 you can see that touches line 5 creates a nice 90-degree angle looking like a T shape, so that must be perpendicular. Okay, let's have another go at this one. So again, you can pause the video and try this out. So true or false, a rectangle has perpendicular lines. So let's solve this one then now. So we said, didn't we, that for lines to be perpendicular they must create a 90-degree angle. Well, if you start to look at the shape of the internal angles, you can see there are 2, 3, 4, just like a square, 90-degree angles, not 4 right angles. So in this example, it's true. It's got 4 sets of perpendicular lines. And then if we extend that question slightly, are there any parallel lines in a rectangle? Just get rid of those right angles for now, because we don't need them anymore for this part. You can see that these two lines, so the vertical lines in this example, they're equal distance apart, and the horizontal lines or sides, they're equal distance apart too. So what we can use is these little symbols show that they have parallel lines, they're parallel to the other side. So in this one we would say yes, we've got 2 pairs of parallel lines in this example. Okay, so keep looking out for your competitions that might come up, your tournaments, and again, if you need me to change any of your times tables, you feel you've got to the end of one, just let me know and I can change that. Okay, so on to our writing this week, and this week we're going to be concentrating on some spelling, punctuation and grammar. So today we're looking at adverbs of possibility, and again we're doing a little bit of revision on this. I've just got one example there. That definitely is an example of an adverb of possibility. So let's just recap what an adverb actually is. So it's a word which modifies an adjective, verb, or even another adverb. Okay, so it modifies it, okay, changes it slightly. So if you look at the example below, you've got the boy swam quickly to get away from the shark. Now, your adverb is underlined there in red, so it's quickly, and it's modified the verb there of to swim, so swam. Okay, so changes it we could obviously use a different adverb. We could use slowly, and again you can see then that changes how it changes that verb quite significantly there. Okay, so what it's done, as the definition says, it's modified it, it's made it different. And if we just recap what adverbs can do, so they can tell us how, when, where, how often, and how much. Okay, so let's just recap and see if we can identify which of the words are being modified. So in the 5 examples on the screen, you can see that you've got all of the adverbs circled in green. So if you pause the video now, try and work out for each sentence which of the words is being modified. Remember, it could be a verb or it could be an adjective that's being modified. So in the first example, we've got Sam eats his crisps noisily. So in that example, it's what he's doing, and he's doing it noisily, and what he's doing is eating. So in that example, it's eats, the verb that's been modified. Number 2, you've got a strange adverb there, but remember, not all adverbs end in ly, so just make sure we're aware of that. So in this one, I'm so excited about our school trip to the zoo. So in this example, it's got really, or it can only be the next word in this, so it's modifying that word excited, which in that respect is going to be an adjective in that sense. Okay, number 3, so you got that possibly, which is obviously an adverb of possibility. So it says she could possibly be the worst driver in the world. So in this example, you've got it modifying be. So she may not be, but she could be. Okay, so you're modifying that verb, and again, that's a very strange, it's an irregular verb, but it is a verb. And then in number 4, you've got that incredibly adverb, and again, it's which of the words is being modified here. So in this one, as we said at the very beginning, although it seems like it could be the what, it's actually modifying the slowly. So it's incredibly slowly. So again, we've got that incredibly as an adverb modifying the other adverb of slowly. And then on the last one, you've got amazingly. You've got Cara has amazingly bright pink hair at the moment. Now this one is going to be modifying that adjective of bright pink. So just recap of those circled in orange, the different word classes of those. You've got the verb, got excited as the adjective, be as a verb, slowly is the adverb, and bright pink is an adjective. Okay, so that's just recapping and making sure we understand what we're actually modifying in our sentences when we're using adverbs. So let's go back to adverbs of possibility and let's have a look at a scale, because obviously with the possibility element, you can have some things that are certain to happen and some things that might not happen at all. So let's just recap some of the adverbs of possibility, and we've got 9 there on the screen. And if we bring up a number line, you can see that on the left we've got less certain, so not likely to happen, and most certain. So I'm just going to put 3 on this line, so that I've got 1 at one end, 1 in the middle, and 1 on the left. So we're just going to fill it in just with the 3 for now. So if I start with most certain, well, the best one would be definitely. You could also have certainly on there too. Somewhere towards the middle you might have probably, and then the least certain out of all those is maybe or perhaps. Okay, so just remember, whichever you choose is obviously going to affect whatever word you've chosen to modify with that. Okay, so let's have a look at highlighting and see if we can identify the adverbs of possibility in these sentences. So if you pause the video between each of the sentences that comes up, you'll be able to do it before we solve it together. So in this first one we've got I will probably go to school, so probably go to the school disco on Friday. So have a go and see if you can work out which is the adverb of possibility in that one. So that one will probably, and it modifies that verb to go. Okay, next one. So again, pause if you want to have a go with this on your own. We will certainly win this football game because we're 12-0 up after just 20 minutes. So again, we've got that word certainly and modifying that verb to win. Okay, number 3. If it doesn't rain, I will possibly play on my trampoline after school. So again, pause the video if you want to have a go at this one. And yeah, it's possibly, and it modifies that verb to play. And then finally, surely we should finish our homework before we go out to play. Okay, and this one starts off with the adverb, and it's that surely. And then finally, last one, Zach is definitely the tallest in our class. Okay, and this one has to be definitely. Okay, so hopefully you get the idea of these adverbs of possibility. Okay, and in this one, we're just going to have a look at which of the events that's going to come up in the sentences is the author most certain about. So the rabbits are certainly guilty of stealing the carrots from our garden. Got that adverb certainly. Helena was obviously unwell when she arrived at school this morning. Got obviously. Perhaps I should have explained in more detail what the task entailed. And you got perhaps. And maybe we'll visit the museum again soon. Okay, so which one of those do you think is the author most certain about? Okay, and the clue was really in the name, actually, and in the question. It's that top one, because he used that adverb certainly. So if you were to replace that to create the same amount of certainty, you could use definitely in there too. Okay, so hopefully that's enough for you to have a go at those adverbs of possibility now in your packs.